Hi, and welcome to the show. Subscribe at kevinmd.com/podcast. Get CME for this episode by clicking on the CME link in the show notes. Today, we welcome back Samuel Shem. He is a novelist, playwright, activist, Rhodes Scholar, a professor in medical humanities at NYU School of Medicine, and of course, the author of The House of God. And his latest book, which we'll talk about today, is called Our Hospital. Shem, welcome back to the show.
I'm doing well. I always love talking to you.
All right, appreciate you coming on. Now, for those who don't know who you are, just briefly share your story and journey to where you are today.
Well, I am overeducated. I went to Harvard. I was a Rhodes Scholar. I came back to Harvard Medical School because I didn't want to fight, in Vietnam. And I always wanted to be a writer. And I wrote a lot when I came back to the House of God. And that was the first time I didn't want to write novels. I wanted to do other stuff. But anyway, after we and my guys finished the House of God, we were so down that the ones that were around, the core, eat my dust, Eddie, fats, not fats exactly, but all of those things. And we just talked about it. We just unloaded. We drank, we smoked stuff, and we laughed so hard. And then I thought, gee, this is so funny. I'll just write it down with my pen. And then I just happened to send something to someone who handles that in New York, and she said, "Hey, I really like this." And that was the first time anyway I wanted to write it. So anyway, 8 days, eight times through later, I had a book. And I did a very small but smart thing next. I thought real writers don't go out and talk to people like we're doing now, as a purist. And so for 2 years, I mean, the book ran off,
Yeah.
2 years without showing my face. I just went on with my life until one day I got a letter sent to me, and I opened it up, and it said, I'm on call in Tulsa, Oklahoma all night long, and if I didn't have your book, I'd kill myself. And I had that. Oh, but and from that day on, I'm I'm a fanatist. That day, from whenever anybody wanted me to go someplace or do something, I did it. So I've been all over, absolutely. You know that, and that made me think about, why is this good? And the answer was the danger of isolation in medicine and the healing power of good connection. If it's not with another person, it doesn't work. And that's all the things. That's the one thing that I really work about. That it's where you are in good connection, mutual connection. That's what it is to all of it. And so that's it. I wrote The House of God, and then Mount Misery, and then the
Hmm.
last one is Man's Fourth Best Hospital. The other wonderful thing that just happened out of the blue, I was no more at Harvard, and I got out of the blue. Uh, NYU Medical School said, "Hey, you want to come as a professor?" Why would I want to do that? They said, well, we want you to teach. And I said, what do you want me to teach? They said, we want you to teach the house of God. I said, oh my God, you are? You crazy? Because Harvard hated me. And so for the next, I think it's 9 years, I've been incredibly happy. It's an amazing, amazing place. Everything what Harvard isn't. And it's really interesting. I was down in Montefiore touting my book, Man's Fourth Best Hospital. And this was the 2020 March. And, we'd heard about COVID. It was right at the beginning, COVID. And then I came home and I got COVID. I got a pretty bad COVID. I gave it to my wife, of course. Nobody knew what to do. And we weren't going to die, but, it was very bad, So then I said, well, somebody's got to write about this. It has to be me. So here I am, the last 3 years of dedicated writing, almost three. I wrote it really fast to the new novel. I can't tell you how happy I am because, I mean, what a story. The story of COVID, the story of us, the story of a long line, whatever the president was, I moved it away. But it goes really, it's a very simple book. It's three parts. It's shortest, my shortest book. A lot of people like to see that.
Sure.
And it's devoted to NYU, and also this is the epigram. My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves. Matthew 21:13. And those are the things those are the things that were about it, the money. And so what I did, it was in this book, it's very simple. I had some help with someone who was going through it, a lot of help. And it's just the first three COVID waves. It's flying blind, they call it, a false sense, and the end of suffering. And it ends when Trump is done. But the thing that was so remarkable about this, it was such a strange thing that we didn't know how to handle. It was just full of drama all the time,
Yeah.
every time. And as I said, I wasn't in it firsthand. I wrote about it. And I don't think that any book, fiction or nonfiction, can take this up as much for me as I did.
Let me just ask you here. So,
Yeah,
your book is Our Hospital. It's your latest book of what you call the Healing Quartet that started with the House of God.
right.
So, it was obviously during the time of COVID. Tell us some of the major themes that go through this particular book.
It's based on where I grew up in Hudson, New York.
Uh-huh.
It's called, it's one of these, well, I'll tell you. This is in 2020 May. Cush Care Hospital in Columbia, New York was the flagship of Cush Care Private Equity. That's,
Mhm.
that's what these people are doing I mean, Cush Care Private Equity, a for-profit chain of hospitals across America, a for-profit that was listed on a lot of lucrative trading routes. Clearly, its workings were murky, maybe not equity at all. A clever goulash of nonprofit and big time profit. It was in the same site in the very first hospital of Columbia called Whale City Infirmary, founded just after the Civil War, a grand charitable mission to care for each and every wounded, even the rare Confederate soldier who wound up there. And it was totally few. So it's the story, the first three waves till Biden gets in. And here's the wonderful things that I was able to do. I the main one of the main of three characters is a woman. Never done that before. It's a woman who grew up in this little town, and they rush her over to do that. And she is an absolutely marvelous person. There are three generations. She's the most recent. They get Roy Bash, Eat My Dead Eddie, and Hyper Hooper to come out of retirement and joy and time come out in joy. Yeah. But I say that. And then I'll give you a hint. There wasn't the fat man exactly, but there is. So you can find out how to get the factory back because there's so when the fat man died at the end of the other one,
Sure.
I'm crying, And anyway, and then there's the old guy who's there at all, who had who lives there, who was a for the city for a long time. But yeah, this completes the thing I called the quartet. What is it called now? I'm saying,
You call it
you
the
know,
Healing Quartet.
the Healing Quartet. Yeah, I always remember. I never remember. But that's what it is. If somebody wants to know what American medicine was for 50 years. I started 50 years ago writing. This is it. And frankly, I wanted to come on with you because I didn't, this is telling people, you know, get get on this because I don't think I'm going anymore. And the nice thing is it has a happy ending, not just COVID, but all the ways that what they do to these horrible money men. And they figure out, nobody's ever figured out this before. I did. I did.
Let me ask, how did you get the stories for this particular book? You know, you mentioned things, of course, like COVID and private equity and some of the unsavory business evolution that's been kind of pervading medicine today. How did you do your research to really weave in these realistic themes into your narrative?
Well, I read everything. It's just so amazing, Trump and all that stuff too. But I read everything, and I especially read about money. I mean, money and my last hospital, was money and screens, that were coming in, which are linked, of course. But this one, if you look at it, it's absolutely sickening how much money the insurance people made through that through the whole thing, and it's very something has to change. We can't go on like this. You know that. What we have to do is stick together, doctors, etc. And I'll tell you a little story. I always bring my new book to NYU, and we have a big, auditorium. And what I always do is, this wonderful guy Bob Grossman, he says, here he is, blah blah blah. And I get up there and I talk for 45 minutes, and then there are answers. This time, because it's about nurses, the nurses are the heroes in this book. The nurses do it, with other people, of course. What I decided was, instead of just getting up to the place and talk, I want two chairs on the stage, me and the head nurse of NYU. And it was incredible, incredible. It's the first time I have really put them at the center. I didn't put them at the center before because that's where they were like they were for me. Now, if I could just say, hey, this is you. The big thing that we have to do is to piggyback, if they let us, our a way of threatening to just or else we're not going to do our job.
Sure.
It's a classic thing. I think it will get better. I think it will get better. Lots of people are, but this. You're writing all these wonderful things. It's terrible what doctors are doing. You are doing. You've got it. You're raw about all of it. Thank you. Thank you.
So, through your novels, you just weave in 50 years of themes in American medicine. You expose some of the ugly sides that's been going on in American healthcare. Now, what does success look like to you? You clearly want, through your novels, you clearly want to reform and improve our healthcare system. You want to bring those doctors and patients closer together again. Now, in your mind, through your novels, what would success in changing medicine look like to you?
It has to be equality. I mean, it has to be equality. But the thing is, people is really bad for people like me to find a doctor now, and you have to read my books to see why they're bad. The money is the main thing. But, we've got the VA, I mean, that's a good model. It works. People are pretty happy with the VA. But and look, NYU, I don't know what exactly their thing is, but it works for them. It really works for them, and they're buying hospitals all over on Long Island and stuff like that. You have to get the insurance companies to tone it down. You got to make their profits not worth really doing things. And, you know, I think the first thing to do was that the nurses and the doctors start talking, because doctors are walking out. I read something this week, didn't I, about doctors are
Yeah.
walking out, quitting, just
Yeah.
quitting. So I think you do what other good hospitals do when they have to. You have models, and it has to reach a fever pitch in order to do that, and then maybe it will, maybe it will. But I have it's a great big good thing at NYU Medical School. I've never seen anything like it. Imagine them, having Harvard feeling, do a course on this. Never, never.
We're talking to Samuel Shem. He's the author of The House of God, Mount Misery, Man's Fourth Best Hospital, and his latest is titled Our Hospital. So, in your attribution, you said that this is the fourth and probable last novel of the Healing Quartet. So, there is a slight possibility that there may be another one after this, or is this really it?
Well, I'll give you something that should help you. That will my best book. It's wedged into these four novels. It's the spirit of the place, and it's before this happens in this little town. And it's my best book. Everybody loves it. It's about this guy, younger, that's here, but that is an old one. Is a wonderful. It's a love story, but it's a wonderful. So you should do that. So let's not forget the ending. That's all. I mean,
Sure.
you keep going. I'd love to keep going. I do think it's very hard to write at this age, I think. And this is funny. People ask me how. I say I only write in the morning, and they say, well, when do you quit? And I say, when the atrial fib starts in, and that's true. That's true. And what I do, I get propranolol usually, but what I did this time was really bad for myself, my body. I had nothing to do when I'm writing. I wasn't going anywhere.
Sure.
Wasn't talking very much. So I said, well, I had never, because of the atrial fib, I had never gone in two shifts. So this time, smart me, I take a nap, I eat with my wife, daughter, etc. And then I slip over and do 2 or 3 hours, and then that might be 4 hours. And that's when I really started to get into a real wave of heart stuff. And so I had to stop that. It got so crazy.
Sure.
So when you get older, physical things make it hard to be a writer in that way. It was very dramatic, but I'm fine now. But the main thing I think about now, I think there will be some kind of joint doctor nurse stuff, lots of more. I hope this will do that. Just a little piece, and talk about it and get closer. It is
Um,
close in NYU. They're amazing.
all right, Shem. My last question, where you could share some of your thoughts and take-home messages to the Kevin MD audience.
All right. This book, here it is. It's the shortest book of the four, the very shortest book. You can read it in 2 days. Maybe one of you read faster. Okay, so the things come out well. Okay, you have to know this is this is really everybody that you want to be happy is happy. They earn it. It isn't nuts. But anyway, this is Roy and Barry at the end, the very end, after they've shall we say done what they wanted to do with. I won't, but it works happily. Okay, now let's see. And they're just at night looking over their house and stuff like that. Let's see. This is Roy.
Sure.
Okay, talking Roy and Barry. Roy, after 50 years of them, almost everyone in medicine is hurting. Doctors, nurses, all the others, working in the money-driven hell realms of American care. We're all suffering terribly. COVID has lit it up for all to see. The risks to our bodies, minds, and spirit are profound. Killing ourselves, acting normal, the poor and the people of color dying in droves. So when you go out there and do what Fats suggested, as I say, there's a way that Fats is already is talking to him. Well, let me go back to that. Roy paused, scanning the trees for Fats. Okay. He went on, quote, "We do miracles every single day, but we haven't been able to get a place safe to work in, body and spirit. 1 in 5 healthcare workers have quit. Many of us died. At the start of COVID, we did the most important thing for us and our patients. We stuck together. But it became a very hard thing to do. We ran into the big American self, killing off the American dream, because it was only a solo dream in darkness, not really with others, not lasting into the day. Hatred and money killed it." He smiled at Barry. As the Buddha said, because she's a Buddhist teacher now, as the Buddha said, it's the 3 defilements: greed, hatred, delusion, the roots of suffering, right? Yes, she said. So when you go out there and do what Fats suggested, which is to go to people and try to help, do what Fats suggested, what would you say to the next generations? This is it. You know, all these years, I'm coming right back to the beginning, you know. She smiled. "I'll pretend I'm one of them." He looked down over the deck, down to the flat land before the river. And he says, "Now we turn our sight to you, the next generations. This isn't our fight anymore, at least not on the front line. But it breaks our heart to see you this way. It's the fight, and we have your backs. We have faith in you. Stick together, lean on us, count on us, call on us, and we'll be there with you. With you. That's the spirit. Mm-hmm. As he went on, it was as if he were reading from writing in the sky. All of you have made it as doctors and nurses. All of you need from us now is inspiration. We promise we will help. With that, it will be hell. But listen, take this in deeply. These things can change like lightning and with lightening. Sometime, maybe when you are down, your dark sky may lighten. And in that moment, you may glimpse a beloved person, a love or a wild, kind teacher, or family member, or as I did, a fat man. And in that sudden, strange awareness, you can count on one thing above all else, for sure." He smiled at Barry. "Our job is to reveal and heal. We all together have the power to lift you and your caring. It is a rising time." He paused. Barry nodded, reached out, took his hand gently, and smiled. He finished, "We wish you all well." That's why I write it. That's why I write. I hope they get to that.
The book is Our Hospital, the probable last novel of the Healing Quartet. Thank you again for sharing your time and insight and perspective. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. You're a genius at this.